Kristin is a scientist turned healer. Marissa is an energy coach for professionals. And Angelina is an herbalist as well as an energy healer. Collectively, they have over 50 years of experience in 30 different energy medicine modalities. They collaborate together to host an energy community called Rooted in Three, where they draw upon their training in programs like the Energy Codes, Heart Math, and the Emotion Code to help people tap into the power of their unique energy. So welcome, ladies. I am so honored you're here to talk about the energy of the heart and its healing power. Would you like to start briefly by introducing yourselves? Kristin, we'll start with you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Kat. Thank you so much for having us. We're just very grateful to be here. So my name is Kristin Lemaster, and I'm a full-time energy medicine practitioner. But in my first act, I was a scientist and an engineer. And so I love to practice and study the science-based modalities and the evidence-based modalities. And what's really special for me is to work energetically with fellow highly sensitive people, but also to work with people who are on a cancer journey. So that's who I am.
Oh, thank you. Glad you're here. Marissa, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Thank you again for having us here. And as a full-time day job, I'm actually a labor and employment law attorney. However, as a whole human, I hold many roles, including wife and mother and friend and daughter. And within those roles, I am definitely deeply passionate about connecting with our heart and just being a more full version of myself and helping others do the same.
Awesome, exciting. Welcome. And Angelina, how about you?
Hi, thank you, Kat, for having us on. So I'm an herbalist energy practitioner. So I've been supporting integrative practices now for about 15 years. So I promote emotional intelligence, healthy actions, thoughts, and beliefs that benefits balancing the mind, body, and breath. And it's my heart's calling.
Oh, awesome. I love that. I love all things about the heart, and that it's your calling really fits with this episode. So I'm really, again, I'm excited that all three of you are here. Just to give our viewers a bit of context, I met all of you on Clubhouse, Kristin first, and I love listening to the three of you talk about the energy codes and other things, energy related to that. And I listened to an episode that you talked about the heart energy. So I was like, oh, I would really love to have them here and ask them a couple of questions. So I am just really delighted to have you and to bring this information to more people. So to start off the discussion about the energy of the heart, can you tell me a little bit about how the heart is an electromagnetic center and how we can use this knowledge to benefit our physical, emotional, and spiritual health?
So I could take that question.
Awesome.
So I've been practicing heart code now for about 15 years. I work for the American Heart Association. And what I've learned in my research about 20 years ago, cardiology started. So it developed with a significant heart impact because the heart is actually a brain in its own right. So if we really want to understand how the electromagnetic field communicates with each other and to really understand it, we have to understand the three branches that create the electromagnetic center. So this is through your biochemically. So this is through hormones and neurotransmitters. Biophysically, so that's through the pressure waves that communicates with every organ in your body. And neurologically, so this transmits through your nervous system. And this creates the electromagnetic center. So this center pushes oxygen, it moves energy, it magnifies about 75 trillion cells in your body. So if we want to know about the heart and how it communicates and how we can actually learn from this and develop new traits, you have to understand this is in a huge brain. The heart can learn, it can remember, it can sense, and it can feel. So it impacts every part of your body because it decides what gets placed and what gets stored. So, you know, a lot of us, we think that everything impacts the mind first and we just kind of develop it and we kind of, you know, filter everything out. And the truth is it actually impacts the heart first. So, I mean, you can even hear like little phrases like listen to your heart, work with your heart, right? And that part of your body is so important because it radiates everything and, you know, it brings an application to every situation in your life. So that's how it communicates first. If that answers your question, Kat.
That does. And I love that because I really do believe that, and I've had to learn that's like the premise of the show, like getting people out of their head and into their heart, because I had to do that for myself. And I understand it for myself, but I love like having you share, and all of you, some of the science behind it and how it works to break it down for people like in real time, you know, and in a way that they can simply understand it. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, you know, some of the work I do is with rewiring, and it's not just about rewiring the brain. It's like you said, you start with the heart and it's almost like expand from there is what I got from that. I don't know if Kristin or Marissa wanted to jump in on that a little more before we move on to another question.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to add that when we talk about electromagnetics, you know, from the 50,000 foot level, electromagnetics is how our whole body talks to each other. So even cell to cell communication happens through electromagnetics, and the heart is exponentially more intense in the electromagnetic field than the brain or even the gut. And, you know, kind of taking the science and turning it towards energy. One of the things that we talk about a lot when we talk about energy is what is energy anyway? And I know, Kat, you were involved. We did this whole deep dive into it earlier in 2021, where we're like, what is energy anyway? And we kind of came up with this answer that we don't really know what energy is when we talk about energy healing and energy medicine. But we do know a lot about it, and it has a lot of different parts, right? So it's frequency and vibration, it's wisdom, it's information, and it's light. You know, part of our energy is light, but part of it is also this electromagnetic component that energy has to it. And through that electromagnetic component is how we get all the information, this subtle information that maybe our brain doesn't understand. That's how we bring that information into our body, into our heart, which spreads it to our cells. And that's kind of what helps to have our physical body optimize itself in terms of health. So in terms of electromagnetics, I think it has to do with information as well, and how we communicate that.
I love that, Kristin. And if I can tack on, Kat, just real quickly, I think, yeah, it is that information. But of course, what we're trying to do with the heart and what we're trying to do is create this understanding so that we can create that heart coherence, right? So of course, the three of us are energy codes practitioners. And one of the key breaths that Dr. Sue Morter, who teaches that course, taught was central channel breathing. And of course, you are really capitalizing on that heart-centered energy to make everything in the body coherent. So that's where the magic happens. The energy is all around us all the time, no matter what. However, when we bring it into alignment with the mind, body, spirit, that's where the magic happens.
Right.
I love that. Oh, go ahead.
Real fast. Yeah, because when I was, you know, when Marissa was just talking about that, I was thinking, you know, at the electromagnetic field, it starts in the developing embryo and it communicates, you know, with every part of your body, and it radiates so much energy, but it also pushes energy out 8 feet past your body, right? So we're all care bears, if you really think about it, right? So we're all radiating this light photon energy constantly that's cycling through a central channel and creating patterns. And so it's just so powerful what we can actually, like what's in our heart center. This is the control center.
I love that. I really do believe, or I've come to believe and embody that it is the control center. So I appreciate you all sharing that. I wanted to ask, I guess, a question, a follow-up to this is when people become aware, like about the electromagnetic field and everything that you've shared, and they start to maybe practice a central channel breath. Maybe you can demonstrate that later if there's time. Does there take time to integrate this, you know, information and to expand? Can anyone speak to that?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Marissa. Go ahead.
I was just going to start with saying that yes, and it depends on where we're all starting, right? It's like we're all, especially as healers, we realize we meet each other exactly where we are. And so I know for myself, as an example, I went through a pretty significant, you know, kind of, I don't know what it was, a gut issue or something during COVID. And so obviously my energy was just like all over the place. It was very crazy. It felt very unsettled. And so from that place, it took a very long time and a whole lot of energy to bring it into any type of coherence. And so honestly, I've only noticed, and I've noticed the magic happen through the breath work, to tell you the truth. That was a big game changer for me. In addition to that, though, it's just like the more you are involved with communities like this, like again, everything is energy. So the more you heighten your awareness to it, and the more refined you bring it in, the more you feel that. So I think it just really depends on where you're starting in terms of getting to the place where magic happens. You know, sometimes it's just about physical healing, and that's what you're doing, and that's okay. And all the other healing is happening, but you're just not quite resonating with that yet because of your own state of mind. So it comes in levels.
Yes, I love that. And
I was just going to say, so the thing that we talk about a lot is to have this paradigm shift where we recognize ourselves, mind, body, spirit, right? And those three things everywhere in our culture says to have them in balance. But in reality, the spirit is the boss and the spirit's in charge. And we are an energy being that happen to have a physical body and a mind. So while our spirit and our energy can change in an instant, our body and our mind need that time, right? Our physical body needs to let things shift around, and our mind needs to get on board sometimes. And that can take time, and it can be frustrating. I see a lot of people kind of give up on the energy work because they get to a place where they feel like they're stalled, and they don't realize so much is actually happening in their physical body, but the outcome has not expressed itself yet, right? Because your body and your mind, it needs that time to integrate, for sure.
Definitely. And if I'll piggyback on that real fast. So when we think, of the travel between the 18 inches from our mind to our hearts, right? We step back, and the transparency may seem fast because of the chain reactions that we kind of naturally just talked about with, the biochemicals and biophysically. It seems like everything happens really fast. But when we step back and we decode the path, it actually feels long lasting because of the inward devotion and the hidden compassion, and the communication gets lost sometimes because of the mentalist mind. Mm-hmm. So it's funny to me because in my research, the heart is the master system. But if the heart knows how to take the back seat, actually it really does, because it's so humble, it's lovable, but it's also wildly free. But we're just not trained in it, right? We don't sometimes listen to our hearts first. So we have to learn how to tap into that, because that's the fuel of the soul. That's where the healing is developed, right? And that's where transformation actually happens in seconds. But sometimes the mind takes the front seat. And that's why I say the heart is so humble. It'll be like, I'll just sit back here and, I'll let you decide to do whatever. But it feels so much, and it's such a stronger brain, 5,000 times stronger actually than the brain, but we don't talk about that, right? So it's something that needs to be trained, that we listen to that first.
I love that, because for so many of us, and myself growing up and in our culture, it was always trained about the mind, and especially in my home. So I think these conversations are really important to help shed light on this for people, because you're right, we're not taught that. And then, you touched on, someone said the unique energy. So like when it comes to our own unique energy, because like we're talking that, some of the bigger picture, what is the importance to the heart, like just as an individual? I know we've touched on it a little, but if anyone wants to jump in.
When I think about the energy of the heart in terms of my day-to-day life and being a healer, I like to bring it in and think about the chakra system and start to really bring it into the individual state. We have so many chakras, but we have 7 main ones that are inside our physical body. And we call them chakras 1 through 7, and they're energy centers, and they have different vibrations, and they radiate out to different parts of our physical body to help us with healing, to help us get into the flow. But when we talk about the energy of the heart, we are really focused on the 4th chakra, or the heart chakra. And it took me a little while to get there. I've studied so many programs, and there was always this emphasis on the heart chakra. And to be honest, I used to like get a little offended and be like, why is one chakra better than the others, you know? And I personally had a throat and root chakra that I had to work on, and I felt like it was always overshadowed by the heart chakra, you know? But when you think about who we are, again, we're energy beings that have a physical body. And I think our challenge in our life is to learn how to live with one foot in the energy world and one foot in this physical world, right? Mm-hmm. So many people who are energy sensitive tend to struggle a little bit in this physical reality, right? Because we want to be in the energy, but really we're here to live in this physical world. And it's just such a gift to be here. So when I think about the chakra systems, I think about, you know, chakras 1, 2, and 3 from your tailbone to your solar plexus as being those chakras that really assist with living in the physical plane, right? And then chakras 5, 6, the third eye, and 7, your crown chakra, are what connect you to the universe, to source, to God, to whatever it is that resonates with you. And then the heart chakra is actually what connects sort of your higher spiritual self to your mission to live in this physical life. And so when I think about, again, my individual energy, I do sometimes think about that heart chakra as being the thing that really helps us live fully as a human, right? We're energy and we have physical matter, and we're trying to bring those together as best we can. And then of course, in the heart chakra is where we can really fully generate that vibration of unconditional love. And I'm sure that we could talk about this for hours, but the vibration of unconditional love, when you generate it in your heart chakra and then you start to spread it out, it can dissolve all stuck emotions, stuck energy. It can dissolve dis-ease. So again, I have to say, I went over to Team Heart Chakra to say that this really it's such a powerful center in the body, and not just with the electromagnetics and the science as we talked about, but energetically it really is like just the powerhouse to living as an energy being. So I'll stop there.
Yeah,
and I love that. Please go ahead.
If I could just add a little bit, I love what Kristin just said. And in terms of being a gift to be here in these human bodies. And a lot of times Dr. Steve refers to humanity as like the bridge between heaven on earth. And I really think that heart chakra encompasses exactly what she's talking about. But that energy of love too, and relating that back to the foot on earth, right? And the human piece of it. A lot of times we are stuck in kind of our mentalist place, you know, especially I know for myself, I can totally say that in my own profession and everybody around me. But most of us, right, in our day-to-day, even as we deal with kids or any kind of a relationship, but when we turn it a tiny bit and look at the heart and start looking at it with an eye towards service, you know, and we look at how it is that we're relating to others through service and really bringing that heart energy in, that's where we really start getting why it's a gift to be here and why we are a gift to everybody else, right? That's if we're coming from that true place of love.
I really appreciate that land. I don't know, Angelina, did you have anything you wanted to chime in at all, or you can
I'm just saying, like, this, you know, networking radio station that we have that's constantly sending signals, you know, we have to be like super aware of like what's coming in, right? Because everything creates a rhythm and impact with every beat of your heart. You know, like every time it beats, there's creating some kind of energy out. So, and that goes along with the pressure waves of the biophysical part of your brain, right? So like, what are we really taking in? You know, what's getting fuzzy? What's getting a mixed signal sometimes? And that's why, like, you know, doing that inward devotion, I think is so valid and so important.
I agree.
You know,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add to like what we're taking in, and I know, Kat, we talked about this, but you know, our chakras are they're like cones, right? So there's a big opening in the front, there's a small opening in the back, and a cone that connects us. And the opening you can close, and you know, you can make it big and you can make it small. And again, like in our culture, especially people who are energy sensitive and they're feeling themselves as a spiritual being, and they're going to yoga and everyone's like, open your heart, open, there's all these heart opening exercises and everyone is out there telling you to open your heart. Well, for some of us who are energy sensitive, who are trauma survivors, who are just highly sensitive people, sometimes we actually need to close the opening in our heart chakra, because what we're doing when it's just blown wide open like that, that's what, connecting to what Angie just said, sometimes we will start to drop our buffer of love, if you will, and start to take in other people's stuff into our heart. And then that vibration, that frequency gets pumped to kind of all of those cells in our body. So I think, when we talk about our own energy and what we can do on a day-to-day basis, it's okay to close your heart chakra down a little bit, because when you do that, you're doing that inner devotion, you're refilling your bucket. And that's how you really show up in service to others, is to show up in wholeness. And sometimes to do that, you need to close down that heart chakra a little bit just to reset yourself.
I love that. And we have touched on that before. I love when you talked about that. And it made a lot of sense to me. Like, there's so many different philosophies we can look through the lens of this stuff. And like, in the Hermetic philosophy, they talk, the pendulum swings. And I think of that. So like when someone, or like myself, whose heart was really shut down for a long time, swings and goes into this thing of opening it so wide because of, all the heart opening things that you talked about. And then we come into balance somehow to find, this balance for ourselves. One of my first mentors, like over a dozen years ago, started to introduce me to some of this heart work. And she said what you said so eloquently, Kristin, was like, the heart is the connector between like heaven and earth, and it is the connector between our upper chakras and our lower chakras, but learning how to protect it and manage it in a way that's, helpful for ourselves and for other people and for service. I love how you touched on that, Marissa. It's so important. Before we wrap up, can any of you share a little more about why all of this matters and how our viewers can tap into the energy of their own heart in like a day-to-day basis?
Sure, I'll take that one. So as far as why it matters, hopefully everybody kind of understands that. And it's really, if nothing else, it's certainly about your own personal health, mental, physical, and of course, spiritual. But it matters so much more than that, because when you're tapping into this energy, that's when you're really tapping into everything that you are. All that you are. And that's a much bigger statement than I think I can even make with those words, but it really is that. And so as far as taking it into your daily life, I think we all are probably well versed on a lot of these practices, but it's just simple reminders of, like, as an example, gratitude. And of course we think of gratitude and we're like, yeah, okay, I got it. But like actually doing it, actually practicing it, like physically writing it out, even just one thing, or sitting there in bed before you get out of bed and being grateful for 3 things, or before you go to bed at night. And gratitude, though, when we think of it, is really the greatest state of receivership. So what we're doing when we're giving things is telling the universe, or whatever energy force you believe in, saying yes. Right? We're saying yes, more of this. And so again, Kristin talks about making sure that your heart, depending on the situation, can be like a little bit more open or closed. And that's totally fine. But when we're talking to the universe, we want to be open, right? And so that's where we want to practice that beautiful state of gratitude. And of course, in our day-to-day life, if somebody does something beautiful in service to us, or we get to serve somebody else, we give thanks for that too. And we could give thanks to them verbally as well. I also think that it is ultimately a path to surrender, again, for most of us, from the mind to the heart, the head to the body. And so for that, a lot of times, one practice that helps me a ton is forgiveness work. And I know there's the beautiful Hawaiian forgiveness work, Ho'oponopono. I probably said that wrong, but it's just the very simple, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And just saying those words with true vulnerability, with whatever we have in mind, whether it's a person or a situation, knowing that we're not necessarily like losing judgment on, like, this person did something terrible to me and I'm going to let them back into my life. It's not that, but it's really just allowing yourself to be freed up. Because again, we want to open ourselves to grace through the gratitude practice, but we need to make sure there's room to receive that grace. And so we have to move things out through that forgiveness practice. So those are just 2 really basic things. And just remembering that it is a journey. And I think of it as just a constant path to surrender. So those things help me. Mantras, well, there's so many things, but those are just a couple that are useful for myself.
Awesome. I love that. And I use some of those similar themes in my work. And so I'm really, really thrilled that you're all here. It's like, you know, validation and a little science and further explanation and sharing this whole message. And we only have a few minutes left, and I have so many questions I could ask you guys, but I want to touch on the three of you together. Like, can you tell me a little bit briefly about how the three of you met and how your program or your Rooted in Three group program was born?
Sure, I'll go ahead because it was a little bit of an accident how we met. We met in the training for the Energy Codes Facilitator program. So the Energy Codes is a book, but it's really so much more. And Dr. Sue has so many programs. And I had intended to enroll in the coaching program, and I was like going really fast, and I enrolled, and we got into class, and I was like, shoot, wow, I just dropped a lot of money and I think I'm in the wrong program. But what happened was they took us and they put us in a pod where we had to learn and test together and demonstrate our understanding. And that's where the three of us met. So, and then we took it to Clubhouse. So I'll let Angie or Marissa talk about our Clubhouse experience and how that took us into the Rooted in Three.
Yeah, it was really fun. And actually, so we continued to meet like once a week, and we were like, we have to share this knowledge. And we realized that collectively we had more than 50 years of experience in this energy work in terms of like taking courses and practicing it and things like that. So we decided to open up a weekly room in Clubhouse. We have our last week coming up on Tuesday morning, actually at 8 a.m. Pacific, and just kind of going through and teaching some of the energy codes practices to our listeners. And that's been a really joyful experience. However, we want to get deeper into it and really help people kind of like heal and work through some of these things. Again, realizing we're all on the journey, ourselves included, of course, but we want to open that up. So we're creating a Zoom community starting in January. Yeah, so I think, I don't know if Kristin could put the website up, or actually I think Kat, you're sending it out if anybody's interested at all. But really, truly, we just encourage anybody to be part of any community, because we found that when the three of us started meeting regularly once a week and started doing so many other things, it felt like life in every area just transformed completely. So it's been a really beautiful journey.
I love that so much. So, and we only have like 2 minutes left. So I want to squeeze in, if anyone's interested in finding more about that community, the website is rootedin3.com, correct? And yep. All of you also have your own individual practices. There's soulfulnavigation.com, angelinapadron.com, and a free gift, I Am the Love. Where can they find that free gift, Kristin?
Yeah. So again, the gift is a meditation, and it's to generate that vibration of unconditional love. And it's really powerful. You can listen to the first 2 minutes of it to see if you are into it, but it's www.soulfulnavigation.com/love. So my business handle is Soulful Navigation. And just do a /love there, and feel free to download that, and also send feedback, because we always love to hear how it might unfold in your life. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I loved having all three of you here, and I so appreciate it. And if anyone is interested, you can look them up. You can reach out to me to find them, or find me at katmoulton.com. I'm all over social media, Instagram, Clubhouse, Facebook. Reach out and connect. But Melissa, Angelina, Kristin, thank you again. It's so delightful to have you. I really appreciate you. And to all of our listeners and our fiery soul sisters, just remember, this is not just a show. It's a movement to remind you that you are a powerful creatrix living in the matrix, and the world needs you, needs women who are fully awake, dangerously alive, and unified in heart and purpose. So from my heart to yours, may the energy of love flow through to expand and create waves of pure positive impact. Humanity needs you to embody this creatrix energy so you can unlearn the programming, unlock your heart, and unleash your gifts. Thank you so much for your time, your presence, and your energy. Until next time.
Thank you, Kat.
Thanks.